Okay, so when we get started with Amazon, we have to talk about AWS regions. And so AWS has regions all around the world. So you may have heard something like this called US East 1, or if you take, for example, the Sydney region, it's called AP Southeast 2. So AWS has just a bunch of regions around the world, and a region is what you think it is. It is basically somewhere in the world. Each region will have availability zone. Now, availability zone, we know and recognize them because they end up with a letter. So, for example, US East 1A or US East 1B, and so on. So the letters are A, B, C, D, E, and F. Can go up to 6 AZ so far. So AZ is another word for availability zone, and they're basically representing physical data centers in a region. Okay, so think of like a huge data center somewhere in the world. Now, all these availability zones, they're separate from one another because they want to be separate from disasters. Okay, so this is why we have multiple AZ in one region. Okay, so each AWS region is basically built around a minimum of 3 data center or availability zones, and that's the basis of how Amazon works. Each AWS console now are region scoped, okay, except IAM and S3. And so basically when we go into the AWS UI, as you'll see in a second, you will be scoped to a region. And what that means is that when you do changes or when you perform actions, you will perform this action in this specific region. Now the AZ themselves are a subset of the region, but they're not shown in the console. So if we go to the console right here, we can see that right now I am in the Paris region. But if I click on the top right, I can see a drop down of all the regions for AWS that exist. If I take a service, such as, for example, EC2, we can see that when the EC2 page is load, we can see that the region is still Paris, okay? Whereas if I go back to the console and type in the center bar, I type IAM and click on IAM, now I can see that IAM is a global service. In the top right, it says global, and then it says IAM does not require region selection. So there's a few services that don't require a region. There's a few services that do require a region, okay? The best to work with when you start with Amazon is to work in the region closest to you. Now you can go to the Global Cloud Infrastructure about AWS page, just Google Global Cloud Infrastructure, and it will show you exactly on the map where are all these regions and how many AZs they have between them. Within them. So basically we have the EU West region right here. We have the US East, US West right here. So there's a bunch of regions that you can see. And within each region, they tell you the number of AZ they have. Now for this tutorial, I want you to take a region with at least 3 AZ, okay, for this whole course, because it really is the basis to me of how AWS works. And that's pretty much the standard everywhere. So when you do this tutorial, choose a region that is close to you. If you live in Brazil, take a region in South America, right? If you live near China, take the region that is closest to you. If you live in the US, do not choose Australia or Europe as your region. So that's just the basics, region and AZ. And now we're ready to get started with Amazon Cloud.